Lord Kinnock, or I should say Neil. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I'll just give a quick intro for our viewers as to who you are, although I think you don't need any. You've been in Parliament for 25 years. You were the leader of the Labour Party for almost a decade. You then went on to take leadership roles within the EU, first as European Commissioner for Transport, and then as Commissioner for Administrative Reform and Vice President of the European Commission. I want to start by talking a bit about current events. Almost exactly a year ago, you gave a very passionate speech to the PLP on Corbyn's electability, let's say. Can I ask, has your opinion of him changed at all after this last election?
The speech that I gave, and didn't intend to give, I did it in rage at some comments from somebody who was old enough to know better in the Parliamentary Labour Party, was not really to do with my estimation of Jeremy Corbyn. It was to do with the fact that in desperate circumstances and following a vote of no confidence by the Parliamentary Labour Party of 172 votes to 40, no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn, there was talk of the Labour Party splitting. And of course that would be lethal, devastating for the country, and not just for the Labour movement, to which I've belonged since I was 14 years of age. So that was the context in which I made the speech, and apparently it had the effect that was positive, because all talk of splits faded into nothing. My estimation of Jeremy Corbyn has not in general changed. I always knew that after a lifetime of campaigning, he was a good campaigner. What I didn't realize was that he was what Napoleon would have called a lucky general. Napoleon said, forget strategists, give me lucky generals. And the election was held at a time when the British public was very weary with 7 years of unproductive and depressing so-called austerity. And Corbyn also faced the Prime Minister, Theresa May, who, having said that there would be no general election because of the instability it would cause in the midst of the Brexit negotiations, called an election for entirely hubristic and opportunistic purposes. Under examination by the public, she proved to be shallow, if you can be shallow and hollow at the same time. And full advantage was taken of that. They were contrasting manifestos that no playwright could have dreamt up, of a Conservative manifesto that was empty other than an undertaking to provide more of the same, and a Labour manifesto that said the only way to conquer the depressive effect of austerity is to generate fresh investment and have an investment-led recovery, which is simply intelligent, isn't particularly radical. It's actually very mainstream. But the British people contrasted these two approaches and voted for the more productive one. Not enough of them, certainly not enough to win. We're still about 60 seats behind the Conservatives. But nevertheless, for Jeremy Corbyn, who started off with the lowest possible expectations, to provide a significant advance for the Labour Party, and certainly not a retreat. So my estimation of him as a campaigner remains what it was, which was certainly respectful. My estimation of him as a leader remains the same, in that he has not really got the commanding managerial capability and not the broader appeal, which is absolutely vital, to close that gap with the Conservatives and to secure a Labour government, which must be the objective. So consequently, my opinions remain the same, although I naturally am very, very, very pleased that we made advances, and delighted by the fact that a lot of that advance came because the younger vote in Britain at last showed it was prepared to be mobilized.
Do you think Corbyn had anything to do with that mobilization, specifically Corbyn?
I think that, yes, he had a certain appeal. There's no doubt at all about that. I actually think the main stimulus for the increase in the registration of young voters and the use of the vote by young voters came from two sources, maybe stimuli. The one is utter frustration, almost desperation, with the effect of prolonged austerity on their prospects, incomes, security, opportunity. And secondly, a growing contempt for the complacency and the patronizing of the public by the Conservative Party and the Conservative leadership. So I think all three factors, with Corbyn's appeal as an additional but not huge stimulus, all three factors played their part in the youth vote.
Do you see any parallels between militant and momentum at all?
There are similarities in terms of the overlapping personalities, if that doesn't flatter them by describing them as personalities. But essentially, militant existed to infiltrate and influence the Labour Party, seeking to take over segments of it geographically, regionally, and in terms of cities, and to influence its direction and thinking. I don't think even they had the ambition of being able to take over the Labour Party, as it were, to secure leadership of the Labour Party. Momentum is a different animal in the sense that it is organized by people. I'm not saying this is true of all its membership, but it's organized by people who have always cherished power in the Labour Party more than they've ever cherished ambition for the Labour Party. And consequently, they have, up till now, this may change, up till now, focused almost exclusively on capturing positions, ranks, strata of power and decision-making in the Labour Party, rather than trying to extend the appeal of Labour to people who are maybe not naturally aligned with the left of centre, which of course is the essence of any means of winning a sufficient breadth of the vote to secure democratic power that can enable you to really do things in making British society and the British economy more progressive and productive. So, as I say, momentum may change, but it's, while it has in its ranks people who come from the Leninist tendency, like militant, it is much more a grouping led by people who have had longer ambitions to influence and direct the Labour Party rather than extend its appeal.